The Korean government renews its will to stick to the plan to increase the number of future doctors, against which medical professors are set to determine by tomorrow the fate of their collective resignation. More measures were unveiled today to improve medical services in rural areas. Russia is reportedly in close contact with South Korea to work on possibly granting consular access to a South Korean missionary currently detained in Russia on espionage charges. South Korea's tech exports were up about 29% last month, driven by an obvious recovery in the semiconductor sector. It's March 14, 2024. This is Newscenter. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Min. Medical professors are set to determine by tomorrow whether to hand in their resignations against the government's plan to increase the number of future doctors. For that, they are soon to hold a meeting. The administration is reportedly thinking of apportioning 80% of its planned increased medical school quota to regions outside the capital area. Choi Soo-hyung starts us off.
There's only a day left for medical school professors to determine whether to collectively hand in their resignations. The Medical Professors Association of Korea will hold an online meeting at 8 p.m. on Thursday ahead of the decision, which purports to protect junior doctors from legal action such as the suspension of their licenses. The government is trying to prevent any resignations by the professors, but has also made it clear that it will complete its reforms of the healthcare system.
Reducing numbers of doctors in the past due to fiscal pressures, when we should have been increasing them, has made the current reform more challenging. The government will complete healthcare reform to safeguard lives and health, avoiding past mistakes.
Meanwhile, amidst the plan to increase medical school enrollment by 2,000 students starting next year, it has been reported that the government is considering allocating 20% of the new quota to the capital region, including Seoul, and 80% to the rest of the country. Also, to address regional disparities in healthcare and strengthen essential medical services such as in pediatrics and obstetrics and gynecology, the government will push for a reduction in people's dependence on the so-called Big Five hospitals in Seoul.
We'll bolster local healthcare to ensure timely treatment for all illnesses, from mild to severe. The government will innovate by developing small but strong hospitals and improve networking among them to address the abnormal over-reliance on the capital region.
The government will increase financial support to hospitals in vulnerable areas and elevate regional hospitals to the level of those in the capital region. Choi Soo-hyung, Arirang News.
Transportation infrastructure will be sharply bolstered in the nation's southwestern Jeollanam-do province thanks to a superhighway which will benchmark one that's in Germany. Now that's according to President Yoon today, who was visiting the region for another policy debate. Our correspondent Kim Do-yeon has the details.
2.6 trillion Korean won, or around $2 billion was pledged to build South Korea's version of Germany's Autobahn, an expressway without a speed limit to connect Jeollanam-do province's Yeongnam and the city of Gwangju. The announcement came from President Yoon on Thursday as he visited the province to hold a policy discussion on the region's growth and said better transportation infrastructure is needed.
이 길을 통해서 국내외 관광객들이 서남권을 더욱 많이 찾게 되고 전남 관광이 크게 활성화될 것입니다. 또한 이곳을 미래차, 자율차 관련 기업들이 실증 테스트베드로 활용할 수 있도록 해서 관광과 비즈니스를 한꺼번에 잡는 교통 인프라로 만들겠습니다.
He also promised a faster rail system that connects Iksan in Jeollabuk-do province to the southern coastal city of Yeosu in Jeollanam-do, with an investment of more than $750 million. And as the province's Gyeonggi County is also a part of the space cluster, with it being home to the nation's only space rocket launch pad, Yoon promised a swift completion of the first commercial rocket launch site in the area. In addition, a center for commercializing rocket launch technology will be created to foster more private companies. In the meantime, as the province is well known for its agricultural and seafood industries, President Yoon spoke of his vision to host AI-based technology and smart farm technology to foster those industries further. As for seafood, one of the rising stars in South Korea's food exports is kim, or dried seafood, the main ingredient in the internationally popular Korean food kimbap. Exports of kim surpassed 1 trillion won last year for the first time, and 78% of all kim comes from the region. One local business owner who's been exporting the item has asked for more support.
If the country can create an agency to oversee kim industry development and give it a bit more attention, our kim industry could also enter the entire global market, just like the $7.5 billion Norwegian salmon industry.
이제 전라남도의 이런 음식 문화를 바탕으로 해서 김이 이제 동양뿐만이 아니라 서양에도 좀 수출이 될 수 있게 뭐 서양의 샐러드라든지 뭐 이런 데에도 김을 아주 보편적으로 쓸 수 있게 좀 개발이 되면은 저는 뭐 10조 수출도 가능하다고 저는 생각합니다.
In addition, President Yoon also heard about what he could do to foster the nation's animation industry as he seeks to start something called the K-Disney Project, with Suncheon City aiming to become the nation's base for it. Kim Do-il, Arirang News.
In other news, Moscow is reportedly in close communication with Seoul to work on possibly granting consular access to a South Korean missionary currently detained in Russia on espionage charges. Our foreign affairs correspondent Bae Yoon-ji tells us more.
Russia's foreign ministry has said it's in close contact with the South Korean government on the issue of a South Korean man detained in Moscow on espionage allegations. Its ministry spokesperson said Wednesday local time that at the request of the South Korean embassy in Moscow, the possibility of consular access to the detained South Korean man named Bae Kwon-sun is being worked on.
The question is how ready they are for mutually respectful dialogue to discuss these complex issues. And most importantly, everything depends on the country's focus on effectively resolving these complex issues in a mutually respectful manner.
In response, South Korea's foreign ministry said Wednesday that it has been providing consular assistance to the man since the government became aware of the arrest. It added that it has been communicating with Russian authorities on the matter and that the South Korean ambassador to Russia met with a senior official at Russia's foreign ministry the day before.
We will continue to engage in necessary communications with Russia so that our citizen can safely return home to his family as soon as possible.
This comes after Russia's state-run media outlet TASS news agency reported Monday that a South Korean was arrested in Vladivostok earlier this year for handing over classified information to foreign intelligence agencies. According to TASS, he was transferred to Moscow from Vladivostok in late February and is now being held in Lefortovo prison, where a court ordered his detention to be extended until June 15th. Sources in Vladivostok have reportedly said the man was a religious worker and that he had been indirectly supporting North Korean laborers working in Russia, helping them escape. This is the first reported case involving a South Korean national, but it's just the latest in a series of arrests of foreigners made by the Russian authorities, including Evan Gerskovich, an American Wall Street Journal reporter who was detained in Russia last March. Bae Yoon-ji, Arirang News.
North Korea has unveiled a new battle tank which Kim Jong-un has described as the most powerful in the world. Amid the Seoul-Washington military exercise, the Freedom Shield, the regime's Korean Central News Agency on Thursday revealed pictures of Kim driving the new tank during training exercises the day before. He reportedly expressed great satisfaction over its striking power and maneuverability and stressed the need to prepare for war. The tank is reportedly the upgraded version of what the regime unveiled during a military parade in October 2020. While the North brags about its new weapon, here in the South, Seoul and Washington have jointly staged live fire drills using their own battle tanks and armored vehicles. This wraps up the annual Freedom Shield exercise, which South Korea and the U.S. have been conducting over the past 11 days. Our defense correspondent Kim Jong-un was at the site and files this report.
A ground-shaking blast followed by another seconds later. The combined forces of South Korea and the U.S. launched explosives one after another to swiftly advance into hypothetical enemy-controlled territory. A U.S. unmanned aerial vehicle flies over the enemy's territory to locate the target. Then, a K-30 gun and missile air defense system detects the enemy's aerial assets using its radar and blasts over 300 rounds of shells to shoot them down. This weapon can detect an enemy located within 21 kilometers and automatically fires once its target comes within the 3-kilometer range. 18 K-1A2 main battle tanks and 2 K-21 infantry fighting vehicles quickly advance into the enemy's territory and precisely strike the preset targets. Engineers from South Korea and the U.S. then fire multiple mine-clearing line charges to clear paths for tanks and vehicles through minefields and other obstacles. After shooting more than 200 rounds of shells, the Allies successfully conquer the enemy's base. The training took place on Thursday in South Korea's border city of Pocheon as the annual Seoul-Washington Freedom Shield exercise came to an end. The drills involved some 340 soldiers from South Korea's Capital Mechanized Infantry Division and the 2nd Infantry Division, a major U.S. ground combat unit in Korea.
Through this training, we were able to fully equip ourselves with combined combat capabilities that can overwhelm the enemy.
As you saw, they successfully executed their missions, and it showed that we are ready as a combined force to take on any challenges that we face here. That is the important part of what we do and why we train together regularly, to show that we are ready as a united front.
Kim Jong-un, Arirang News, Pocheon.
Korea's ICT exports surged over 29% on-year in February to lock more than $16 billion, bolstered by an obvious recovery in the semiconductor sector. Our economics correspondent Lee Soo-jin has more.
A strong chip performance was once again behind the increase in South Korea's tech exports. Data released by the Trade Ministry on Thursday shows that ICT exports in February rose 29.1% on year to a little over $16.5 billion. This marks the 4th consecutive month that the nation's ICT exports recorded an on-year increase, and it's the 2nd straight month that exports increased by double digits. The ministry attributed the growth mostly to a robust performance in the chip sector. Semiconductor exports last month surged nearly 63% on year, recording growth in the double digits for 4 straight months. Memory chip exports were especially high, increasing by triple digits on the back of increased demand for high value-added products such as TVs and laptops. As for other tech exports, shipments of displays climbed more than 18% on year, as both OLED and LCD panel exports were up. And computer shipments also rose for the 2nd consecutive month after entering positive territory for the first time in 19 months in January. But the mobile sector as a whole saw its exports tumble more than 21%, despite the release of new smartphones such as the Samsung Galaxy S24 series, due to a weakened global demand for mobile phone parts. By country, South Korea's exports to China, the nation's biggest destination for ICT exports, responsible for more than 40%, saw an on-year growth for the 4th consecutive month. Shipments to other nations such as Vietnam and the United States also rose, but there was a slump in exports to the European Union and Japan. Meanwhile, South Korea's ICT imports fell more than 6% to around $10 billion. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
South Korea is widely known as a global medical powerhouse for its advancements in the digital healthcare industry. To highlight this, Medical Korea 2024, a global healthcare and medical tourism conference, kicked off today to discuss what's worth noticing. Our correspondent Park Gon-woo went out and about.
In an era of advanced technologies, including robotics and AI, the medical field is rapidly transforming by utilizing these technologies. And that allows people to gain access to digital healthcare more easily with lower barriers than before. As people face exposure to blue light and electromagnetic waves from mobile phones and computer screens, this digital kiosk allows you to easily take an eyesight test on your own using AI technology. Let me try it myself. Devices like this allow people to do medical checks conveniently, taking up less time and space. To showcase such devices, the Ministry of Health and Welfare is hosting Medical Korea 2024 in Seoul from Thursday, which also features various lectures and discussions under the theme, Connected Healthcare for All, a New Horizon Beyond Barriers. The conference aims to share insights into Korea's advanced medical technology and enhance perceptions of the country's excellence globally. At the event, a keynote speaker spoke about her ongoing collaborative plans in Korea.
We have been collaborating very extensively with South Korea, doctors, hospitals, as well as various industry partners, not just in the medical space, but also in the IT space. And we are rapidly expanding on that.
Another keynote speaker also spoke about Korea's development in the digital healthcare field.
And I would say, in many ways, Korea leads the world in their utilization of this robotic technology.
He also mentioned some challenges remaining in the overall digital healthcare sector.
You know, digital capability, I think, will be a new frontier across healthcare. And there will be many policymakers and industry participants that will really need to come together to understand how to integrate these digital capabilities into the environment.
Over 50 speakers will participate in the conference up to Friday in sessions with global partners attending either in person or virtually. And alongside various business meetups during the two-day event, intergovernmental meetings will take place with countries including Mongolia, Paraguay, and Turkmenistan to further bilateral cooperation in the healthcare industry. Park Gon-woo, Arirang News.
For our Econ and Biz segment this week, we look at one of South Korea's latest technologies. Our business correspondent An Sung-jin is here to bring some insight into a technology that is already prevalent in various industries. Welcome, Sung-jin.
Good evening, Jung-min. Before we start, I want to ask you a question. How often do you cook at home, or do you even cook at home?
Of course I do. I cook many times.
And if you had the choice, would you leave cooking up to someone else? Or perhaps I should ask, something else?
Well, definitely, I would give it a go.
Now, I ask you this question because robots are now becoming chefs. You may wonder what I mean by this. I visited a couple of places that really show how. The robots are taking over. At least in kitchens, they are. This middle school in Seoul, South Korea is the first to use robots in the process of cooking lunch. Rather than workers standing in front of steaming pots and pans, robots do it instead.
Not only does it ensure consistency in taste and quality, but our chefs have also said that they are more satisfied as cooking has become more efficient and easier.
Research has shown that being exposed to fumes in restaurant and cafeteria kitchens can lead to lung cancer. So the Seoul Metropolitan Office of Education introduced robots to improve the working environment for kitchen staff. These robots can rustle up various dishes such as soup, fried chicken, and stir-fried vegetables. It's not just schools that are using them. Expressway rest areas are doing so as well. Robots here are a part of the autonomous process of putting the ingredients into a pan, cooking them on the stove, and then pouring them into a bowl. For example, it uses its arm to stir the noodles at a certain pace and move them to a bowl. It can make more than 10 different types of dishes and up to 200 dishes in an hour.
Since our working environment has become much more pleasant and convenient than before, it's much more preferable to have these robots. It's like a mutual relationship for us.
If the trial is successful at this rest area, the Expressway Corporation is looking to bring the so-called robot chefs to other rest areas in South Korea. Robots are a key aspect of the growing food tech market. Data from market research and strategy consulting firm Emergent Research shows that the global food tech market is going to expand from $220.3 billion in 2019 to $342.5 billion by 2027.
The integration of robots in the food industry is expected to progress rapidly as it improves hygiene and quality in the kitchen. The problem is not that these robots are replacing people as workers, as the restaurant industry is already lacking in manpower. It's cooperation that's going to be needed.
Well, Songjin, it looks like we're going to see more robots in the restaurants in the future. Then the global food tech market is growing. How is South Korea looking to develop it further?
Now, as the food industry is being further linked with technologies from the Fourth Industrial Revolution, South Korea is definitely going to make more investments further moving on. First, the Food and Agriculture Ministry has pledged to increase the budget for food tech to $48.5 million this year. More specifically, it's planning to invest in R&D for various projects, not only for robots and AI, but also for plant-based products and smart processing technology, among others.
And how are other countries integrating robots into the restaurant industries?
Countries outside of South Korea are also familiar with robots that are delivering food or assisting with food processing, such as sorting and cutting. What's interesting, though, is some companies are working on creating a similar robotic arm that basically replicates the movement of a human. It'd be capable of planning and creating a meal from scratch, suggesting dishes based on available ingredients, and even plating the food. Isn't this amazing? Now, gone are the days when we actually used to cook food and plan food ourselves.
All right, thanks for filling us in today, Songjin.
Absolutely, Jungmin.
As smoke from overseas flowed in overnight, the air in most parts of the country was stuffy, except on Jeju Island and in the Jeollanam-do provinces. Tomorrow, the concentration of ultrafine dust across the country will be bad all day long. The fine dust is expected to continue until Saturday and then be resolved with strong winds along with rain from Sunday. Wearing protective masks above KF 80 will be necessary. However, the weather will be as mild as today. Seoul will start the morning at 4 degrees. During the day, the temperature will rise to around 15 degrees Celsius, widening the daily temperature differences. With the temperature swing, please take care of your health. Tomorrow morning will start off at 3 in Daegu and Gwangju, Daejeon 2 degrees. Daily highs will move up to 20 in Daegu, Gyeongju 21 degrees. During the weekend, the daytime temperature in Seoul will rise to 17 degrees, seeing a high temperature phenomenon. However, starting with Jeollanam-do province and Jeju Island on the afternoon of the weekend, it will rain in many places. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world. And that is Newscenter for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session up next.